Hello and welcome to Wildlife Cam. On Friday I headed off to Shingwedzi with some friends to go camping, taking advantage of the cooler weather that we got after the last rain. And this isn't Carl, he didn't follow me all the way there just to annoy me. This is a greater blue-eared starling, which is a close relative of the glossy starling, which are very common around Shingwedzi. Lots of birds in the campsite, like most of the campsites in Kruger Park. Years ago, the broad-billed rollers were usually only found in the very far north of the park, but over the last couple of decades they've been making their way further and further south, and it's becoming quite common to see them. Still early in the morning, so the ground hornbills haven't left the trees yet. They'll spend most of the day walking around and then go up into the trees to roost in the evenings. Later on, we saw a female baboon carrying a little dead baby around with her. I didn't film it, but it is quite common for baboon mothers to carry their dead babies with them for quite a while before finally abandoning them. This was the only large predator we saw. I'm not sure what that was, an antelope of some sort. We watched this ground hornbill for quite some time, and eventually it started calling before another one was answering quite far away, but then the second one came closer and closer before finally arriving with a beak full of lovely treats. Insects and the like, which it shared with this one. Come on, call again. Apparently a lot of the buffalo have died in the park recently due to a combination of the dry weather as well as waterholes being closed down and also not working due to poor maintenance. So that may have been why we didn't see any lions. They were all lying in the bushes somewhere, bloated, digesting all the buffalo. And this is a yellow-billed oxpecker. They were essentially extinct in South Africa many years ago due to hunting as well as the rinderpest wiping out a lot of the animals, and then followed by pesticides being used on livestock. But over the last decade or two they've been increasing in frequency, and so you see them quite a lot in Kruger Park now. Not as often as the red-billed oxpecker, but they are getting quite common. The African fish eagle is more closely related to the sea eagles you get in various parts of the world, including the bald eagle, than they are to the other African eagles. We saw very few baby impalas to begin with, but then each day we started to see more and more. This was in the campsite, digging for treasure. Not a very big one, probably about 2 feet long. And then a few minutes later I found another slightly smaller one next to my tent. The monitor lizards are more closely related to snakes than they are to many families of lizards. The elephants were very peaceful and content. They like this fresh green grass and the small plants that grow after the rain. They prefer it to the bark and roots and leaves that they have to eat in the dry season. This female elephant on the right is missing the tip of her trunk, no doubt due to a snare, which means she can't pull up the plants from the ground, so she uses her foot, which is quite a clever way of adapting to a bad situation. The mourning dove has a distinctive and lovely call, but I couldn't film one making the call, so I got one off the internet. This is the Tihongonyeni waterhole in the Tropic of Capricorn Loop, which was dry the last time we were there because it had fallen into disrepair, but the honorary rangers had got in and got a bunch of money together and were fixing a lot of the broken waterholes, so it was very good to see the animals back there. And there are always elephants there. There's a constant stream of them going in throughout the day. Usually if you're there for a few hours, you'll see one of the huge tuskers. Not this time, this was about as big as they got. And mostly bulls. In all the years I've been there, we've seen very few females, although some females and youngsters did pitch up this time. Quite an intimidating group of bulls making their way to the reservoir. The morning we were leaving, as we were packing up, a little family of dwarf mongooses came to visit the campsite. They were probably there every day, but I don't think they're early risers, so by the time they got up we'd already left for our drive. They're very small, they're about the size of a squirrel. And my little friend was there to welcome me back home. The waterhole camera also had a bit of a break while I was away because it got some water in it at the last thunderstorm, with the silicone sealant coming off once again. So hopefully a mixture of super glue and silicone will keep it back together again. Now I'm sure if Carl knew the trouble he'd caused me with pecking a crack in the camera, he'd be very pleased with himself. Spot the lioness.
Good connection.
Not many birds enjoy an early morning bath, but the white-browed robin chat is one of them. This leopard tortoise was in a precarious position, camouflaged among some rocks in the road. Doesn't look like a road, but that is actually the track that I would have driven over if I hadn't seen it. The eyes in the background belong to a jackal, and just to the left of it you can just about see a civet, and they were having a little bit of a standoff. There was no real danger of a fight developing. None of them had anything to gain from it, and there was just a possibility of getting injured. It was just they don't like each other very much, and they had to see who would leave first. Ten minutes before this, I'd been down there to clean the lens from where Carl had dirtied it the afternoon before. So he was probably just watching me, waiting for me to go so he could do it all again. 'I'm not sure what frightens this genet. You'll see it dashes off in a few seconds. Nothing came to the waterhole afterwards, but it was most likely a jackal. Then we had some lions pass through this morning, including the big male that we haven't seen for such a long time. I thought he was dead long ago. We can recognize him. He has a hairy growth on his left elbow, so I don't know what he's been doing for the last year and a half or so, but he is back now. Thanks for watching.